Hey, this is Jonathan Ariel with another video in the series for how to set up a course in Moodle. Now, this is the last video in the series that is going to have a number in its name, and that's because it marks the end of the series of videos where we've learned to do some basic things in Moodle. We've gotten all the way up to writing quiz questions and assigning those questions to a quiz, and so for this video, we're going to learn to set up the gradebook in Moodle so that when the course goes live, we'll be set up to deal with the grades as they come out of those activities. So like always, Moodle kind of hides things from you until you know where they are. So if you can't see it on the screen, usually what you're looking for is found under the Actions menu. So in this list, we can choose Gradebook Setup. And heads up, the Moodle Gradebook is definitely not my favorite part of Moodle. It kind of feels like you're stepping back a few decades in technology. The good news is it's still really customizable, and you don't really have to spend a lot of time customizing it after you've set it up once. So let's get started with that. The first thing we need to do with the gradebook is add some categories. Now, these categories in the gradebook are going to be totally different than the categories that are in the question bank. And they also don't really have to be set up like the categories in your real gradebook for your class. Like in that gradebook, you might have a category for daily work and a category for test grades, and that might be weighted differently. You can certainly set that up in Moodle, but I prefer to just set up categories that reflect the units in my course. So let's use the Add Category button, and my first category is going to be called Unit 1. Now for the aggregation, simple weighted mean of grades, you can make different assignments in Moodle carry different weights in the gradebook, and then Moodle can average them together in a weighted manner. Now, I don't do that at all in Moodle, and so I just leave that to the default setting, but you can see there are quite a number of options. So moving on, we're going to scroll down a little bit on the page, and we're actually going to leave everything else the way it is for this category and just save changes. And so right here you can see Moodle has created a little folder icon, and that's the category for Unit 1. Now I'm going to repeat the process for Unit 2, but I'll just come back when it's done. Alright, so we have two categories now. If you see up here, I have these two quizzes in the gradebook. We already made those quizzes in a different video. And so I really need them to be inside the category for Unit 1. And so the way to do that is to actually click on this arrow right here to the left of the quiz. It might seem like you can click on it and drag it, but that will not work in the Moodle Gradebook. So let me click that. This is one of the more frustrating things you have to deal with, because in order to move this activity into the Unit 1 category, we're going to have to look for the empty boxes that are scattered throughout the gradebook, and then this is where we have to click inside the Unit 1 folder to move this activity. So you can see this quiz now is underneath the Unit 1 folder, and sort of indented to the right, and that means that it belongs to the Unit 1 category. So we also have the skills quiz that needs to live inside of Unit 1, but let me show you a different way to get at that, because you're actually going to be able to use that more often once your gradebook is set up. Let's go back to the main course page. Now if you simply open the skills quiz, and then go to the Actions menu so that you can edit the quiz settings. Well, if you remember a long time ago, we set up these quizzes, but under the grade options, we weren't able to choose anything for the grade category because we hadn't set up anything in the Moodle Gradebook. But now you can come back and you can actually choose which category you want the activity to belong to. So that would be Unit 1. And then I can come down to the bottom of the page and save and return to course. So if I go back to that gradebook setup now, you can see that the skills quiz is now nested inside of the Unit 1 category. So one of the things you should probably do at this point is go to your own Moodle course and create a set of categories that help you organize the activities that you're going to add to your course. And that way, when you go back and create those activities, you'll just instantly be able to assign them to the correct gradebook category that they need to belong to. Now there's a couple other things we should look at with the Moodle Gradebook, but let me start from the Moodle main page. And I wanted to come here to show you there's another way to get to the Moodle Gradebook. If you come over here on the left-hand side, one of the buttons in the menu is Grades, so let's try that. Now this is the screen you would want to go to later on in your course when you have grades for lots of different activities and you quickly want to scan through all students and see what their grades are for all activities that are currently open. Let me take you over to my physics course because I actually have some grades still in that class from the previous school year. Now for this video, I have the names column kind of blurred out because that definitely shouldn't be viewable to the public. But if I scroll down a little bit in this list, what you can see is all the activities. So all of these activities are inside of my Unit 1 and 2 folder. And then for the column, you can see the highest grade for every student's attempts. Now, if I click on the magnifying glass for this particular student, I'll get a detailed view of all of their attempts on this particular activity. So you can see on their third attempt, they made a 100, but if we go back a couple of tries, looks like we got a 91 on the second try, and on the very first try, also made a 91. So let's go back to the gradebook and see what else we can find. In a later video, I'm going to show you how to set up groups for your classes, and so you could actually filter your results in the gradebook by which class you wanted to look at a particular time. I'll save that for another video. In this drop-down menu that's not very well labeled, there are quite a few options that you can get to, but you're really only going to end up using a few of them. One of the ones I use most often is if I want to check up on a particular student and see how they're doing, I'll pull up a user report. And so this is the same student that I pulled up earlier, but if I scroll down in the list, I can see all of the activities in the Unit 1 and 2 category, and I can also see the student's highest grade on all of those activities right here in this column. And I could click on any of the activities in this column, and I would be able to examine all of the different attempts that a student made. So that's the user report. If I mentioned that the gradebook was a little bit frustrating, like how you had to move assignments to put them into different categories, well, this is another one. That drop-down box that isn't very well labeled has now changed positions on the screen, and frankly, I find that just a little bit annoying. So let's look at what else is available in that list. We've already been over the gradebook setup, but this is another way to get to it. And looking at this list right now, the only one that I actually use, besides the screens you've already seen, is the export function. So I can choose to bring up an Excel spreadsheet. Now this is the screen that I would come to if I wanted to export grades to be able to add them to my own classroom gradebook. And this is the last slightly frustrating thing that you have to deal with Moodle. There is no way to directly take grades from the Moodle gradebook and have them automatically go into your classroom gradebook. Usually I'll come to this screen and export a student's highest grades for every activity that may be closed that week, and then I'll manually type them into my teacher gradebook for my actual class. So that's about it for this video on setting up the Moodle gradebook. You should probably go to your own Moodle course now and set up some pretty broad categories to help you organize the activities and assignments that you're going to add to your Moodle course later on. I'll remind you that this is the last numbered video in the Moodle setup series, but I do have other videos available on some of the other topics that you may come across as you're learning to deal with Moodle. For now, thanks for watching.